Dear brothers, good morning, boys. Big Tuesday. So, all of you that live really all over the world noticed yesterday that stock market just went to shit, amongst other things. We've got plenty of international, what would you call it? Tension starting to kind of boil in many ways. I know last night I put out a post talking about the fact that stock market was down, international stage is a little bit sketchy, and both sides in every aisle of every political affiliation in the world is just yelling at each other out of pure ignorance, for the most part. And so this morning, I want to make sure that all of us are on the same page about something. And so I've told you guys before that I love the book Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield about the 300 Spartans at Thermopylae. But there's a word in there that's used to describe the emotion when men become out of control emotionally, where they lose control of their ability to make good, rational decisions in a manner that actually is helpful. And every time that we have days like yesterday where everything looks bad, stock market was bad yesterday. That was trillions of dollars of wealth just kind of disappeared in a second. And a lot of people were harmed immensely by that. Never mind when you start looking at all the other things that are happening in the world. And it's just this emotional onslaught of fear that pops out of that. And when that happens, men and everyone else in the world, but I'm going to specifically talk to you guys, get so caught up in it that they lose sight of everything else. They lose control over what's happening in their lives because they're under this weird microscope, or they're looking at the world through this very narrow lens, and all they see is fear, scary, terrible, everything's awful. And when that happens, when they're possessed by it, that's all they can focus on. They can't see anything else. They can't see the forest for the trees. They are constantly going on various websites, social media, and they're just scrolling and taking in more of it and more of it and more of it. And I've talked on here before at length about doom scrolling and just constantly going through social media. But this idea of possession is of far greater concern when we have stuff like what happened yesterday. Because what it does, inevitably, is it takes our minds off of what we need to be doing. It removes us from the path that we're supposed to be on. And what I want all of you to understand is this. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last time that we see economic disruption in some capacity. This will not be the last time that we see all of this political infighting and we see all of this international difficulty. I'd love to tell you that's not the case. Guess what? History is undefeated in what it predicts for the future. And so one of the things I can tell you is this. When I was in high school, I remember my godfather, there was a political election, and the guy that my godfather didn't want to win won. And the next morning he said, "You know what, buddy?" He's like, "You know what the difference is between me and a lot of other people that I want to make sure you take with you as you get older? Is that no matter what, no matter who won yesterday, no matter how much I dislike them and I think they're going to hurt our country, I'm still going to work today. And I'm still going to work hard, and I'm still going to provide for this family. And none of that is going to change just because I dislike the person and I think they are going to do bad things when they get into office, or things I don't like." And I always took that with me, because no matter what's going on around you, fellas, no matter what's happening politically, no matter what's happening economically, even if it stings and it hurts, your mandate to get out, work, to be dutiful to your family, to be absolutely ferocious in getting after it in whatever capacity you have going on, never changes. As Richard Phillips talks about, and I've talked about on here with the book, The Masculine Mandate, it's to work and to keep. That doesn't change based on what's happening around us. We still have to work. We still have to keep. We still have to protect. We still have to lead. And if your mind is so possessed of what's happening around you, what's happening in the world, you can't do those things. And the people that suffer for that are your family. Especially, think of it like this as well. You lead your family. If you are in this state of possession, if you are in this state of emotional disturbance, of lacking control, what is your family learning? Who do they go to? All that they've learned is that, oh my gosh, dad, husband, brother, they don't know what to do right now. They're out of control. What does that mean for me? You are the rock that your family puts its house on. And so if you are out of control, if you are possessed by all of this stuff, even if you're just letting a little bit of it in and it's impacting how you are doing things on your daily life, we're failing as men. So although the world is full of bad stuff, terrible things occur all the time to people. Yesterday was a not great day. There's no other way to put it. It was a very, very bad day for the economy, for a lot of people's wealth, for people that were trying to retire. I get it. That's why voting matters so much. Who you put in office matters so much. There's a ripple effect to how we choose things. However, the amount of obsession that we get with this stuff is unhelpful. It is not solving any of these problems. And one of the rebuttals I get from a lot of people is, well, Jackson, you should know politics. You should know what's happening in the government and with, the stock markets. And you need to know those things intimately, because otherwise, how do you vote and do stuff? I'm not disagreeing that we should know those things by any stretch of the imagination. We should. We should have a very good understanding of, specifically here in the U.S., how the Constitution works and what checks and balances are and what our houses of government are and how they all function and who writes laws and what's happening locally, who your local mayor is and your governor. You should know all of those things. But you cannot be obsessed with those things where they literally take you from a place of clarity and calm and they bring you to a place of that possession where you're out of control. There's no rational thinking occurring in your mind. You can't make good decisions. And so you can do both. You can be knowledgeable of what's happening in the world without being possessed by it, because the minute you become possessed by it, the world goes into absolute, complete chaos, because there's no one there to get everyone in order, to line everybody up and be like, hey, it's all good. We have seen this before. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. And no matter what, we are divinely called to go work, to go continue, to foster, to produce. I was writing in my journal this morning, actually. My wife and I are in the midst of trying to have kiddos. And one of the questions you'll get from people, and even something that my parents talked to me about when I was young, was, I don't know if we want to bring children into this world of suffering and depravity, economic uncertainty, political unrest. How could we possibly bring a child into this world? And the simple answer to that is that we are divinely called. We are biblically called to bring children into the world. And that should be enough for most people, because it's what we're called to do. And for anybody listening to this who, believes as I do, that what God puts down in that book is what we're supposed to do. But sometimes that doesn't feel like it's enough. It doesn't have well, why? Why would I bring children into this world? I know I'm called to do it, but why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. And one of the things that I wrote down was this. God doesn't tell us to do things that are irrational or don't make sense. at some heart of it, there is something that you go, that makes sense. I understand that. And one of the things that I thought about this morning was that one of the reasons that we have kids is because of this. Think of all of the suffering and evil and terrible stuff that's happened in the world as dragons that need to be slain. What happens if all the good people, all the dragon slayers, all the men listening to this podcast, don't bring forth children to educate them on how to be dragon slayers? What happens to the world? If the world's burning now, do we just want it to burn forever? Do we just want evil to run ramp shot? No, we don't. And we stop that by raising children, even if they are not our biologically own, to fight. And in a world that is bereft right now of a large population of good men, that simply has to be a main focus for all of us men listening to this. And so no matter what's happening around you, no matter the unrest, politically, fiscally, our job, our duty is to continue to work. It's to continue to fight, to put our heads down. Doesn't mean to close our eyes to the world around us. It doesn't mean to put blinders up. But this possession that you're seeing too many young men and too many older men get involved in is not helpful. I see far too many 60 and 70-year-old men who this is all they can focus on. They have no purpose in life. It makes me sad. You know what they should be doing? Going out, meeting young people like me, like people younger than me, and being like, hey, this is how you manage this. This is how you maneuver this. This is how you get stronger. This is what will allow us to succeed in the future, and you have to be the person that brings that to the next generation. That matters far more than scrolling through and becoming anxious because we can't look away from the fear porn that's all over the world. We have to get rid of it, boys. Possession is not helping any of us make the world a better place. So understand this morning, all of you, everything around you might be in a state of burn, no doubt. However, that does not mean you can take a break from working. Take a break from protecting your family. Take a break from being the pillar which your family looks to be under. You are their rock. You don't get to just forfeit that because you lack emotional control, because the world around you is struggling. Find strength in that. You're called to do that. That's a beautiful thing. That is an honor. That's a duty. Embrace it. Be that person. Today, when you're like, let me check on what the stock market's doing. Guess what, guys? You know why they say it's all about like playing the long game and all this stuff? Because the thing goes up and down constantly. And yes, there's a bunch of crummy stuff that happens in the middle. But you know what? Sometimes we can't do anything about that. Do you need to make educated decisions on what you do with your money? Absolutely. But if you're constantly glued to it, you're not contributing to the world. You may have a book you need to be writing that would actually help the world heal a little bit. You may have a local sports team that you could be coaching. You may have business that you need to be doing. You have a family that needs you to provide. You can't provide if your mind is constantly focused on things you have absolutely no control over. I'm going to leave it at that today, fellas. I love you all. God bless. Be strong. Get after it. Focus on what you can control and what you are divinely called to do. If you're losing control, that possession is leaking into your life, you have got to nip it right now. If you need help with that, reach out to your boys, reach out to me. Whatever we have to do to make sure all of us are on the straight and narrow and actually leading this world needs to be done. There's no question asked about it. If we want to see good things change, it starts with us continuing to show up every day, just like my godfather taught me all those years ago. Let's get after it today, boys. See ya.